Reading this morning, in case you want to look the verse up. 1, 2, 15. Canto 1, chapter 2, text 15. We'll chant the verse shortly. And twice out. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
You ready? Yanudyasina yukta. Mantanam. Chintanti kovinastasya. Kuryat kataratim. Yanudyasina yukta. Mantanam. Chintanti kovinastasya. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work of karma by remembering the personality of God, and therefore will not pay attention to his message. The contact of the spiritual spark with the material elements contacts a knot, which must be cut if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of fruitive work. This liberation automatically follows for one who constantly remembers the transcendental pastimes of personality of Godhead. This is because all the activities of the Supreme Lord, if you are transcendental to the modes of material nature. They are all attractive spiritual activities, and therefore constant association with the spiritual activities of the Lord gradually spiritualizes the conditioned soul and ultimately severs the non-material bondage performed and compared. Liberation from material bondage is, therefore, a byproduct of devotional service. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation. Such knowledge must be overloaded with devotional service so that ultimately the devotional service alone predominates. Then liberation is made possible. Even the reactionary work of the fruitive workers can lead one to liberation when it is overcoated with devotional service. Karma, overcoated with devotional service, is called karma yoga. Similarly, empirical knowledge, overcoated with devotional service, is called jnana yoga. But pure bhakti yoga is independent of such karma and jnana because it alone can not only endow one with liberation from conditional life, but also work on the transcendental and the service of the Lord forever. Therefore, any sensible man who is above the average man with the forefront of knowledge must constantly remember the personality of Godhead by hearing about him, by glorifying him, by remembering him, and by worshiping him always. Goswamis of Vrindavan, who were perfect, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, who were authorized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach the Bhakti cult, rigidly followed this rule and made immense literatures of transcendental science for our benefit. They have chalked out ways of all classes of men in terms of the different castes and orders of life. In pursuance of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and similar other authoritative scriptures. Namaste Saraswati Gaurani Prajani Devi Sesa Sundari Vasantana Chari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. I selected this verse to speak on this morning because I've been speaking on the series of verses that precede this. The series of verses that precede this are very important verses for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is the essence of the entire, all the Vedas is presented here. And how do we know that? Because in Canto 1, Chapter 1, the sages of Naimisharanya, they knew that Kali Yuga had begun because Krishna departed, and shortly after Krishna departs, Kali Yuga begins. So they were learned sages, they knew Kali Yuga is going to begin, and Kali Yuga is not a nice time. So they wanted to do what they knew will diminish the negative impact of Kali Yuga, which was the forms of Yajna. Not only the forms of a Yajna, they had a plan, 1,000 years. One Yajna, then the next Yajna, then the next Yajna. As soon as one is done, the next one's beginning. 1,000 year sacrifice. So that was the plan. They went to a holy place. Naimisharanya. There's many holy places, but that particular one is said to be the hub of the universe, not just the hub of India or the hub of the planet, the hub of the universe. Meaning, a God there that is the whole universe is in its age. Not only the earth planet. So that was the plan. As they began the first Yajna, lo and behold, into the midst came Sutta Goswami. They stopped doing Yajna. And they all stood with palms folded, honoring Sutta Goswami for two reasons. One, he, Sutta, is the Sutta, the son of the disciple of Vyasadeva, who Vyasadeva had entrusted to the Puranas from Maharshi, was his father, and Sutta was his son. So he's the son of a very qualified father and direct disciple of Vyasadeva, empowered disciple of Vyasa. And the second reason was, in addition to that qualification, he just finished hearing the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. the assembly where Shukadeva Swami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a place in Rishikesh where Shukadeva Swami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a nice place. And from there, Nandisharanyan. And so, having just heard, and they knew that he just heard, they changed the plan. Instead of having a 1,000-year sacrifice, they preferred to hear Sutta speak from Bhagavatam. And they could have said Sutta, could you summarize? But they didn't. What they said was, all glories to you, this and that and the other thing, and we have some questions we'd like you to explain, and we provide answers to. Their sages, their Shodha Rishi is very, they're very qualified, very elderly persons. But they recognize Sutta younger in age, that he knows what we don't know. Or we want to hear from him what we already know. So they asked 6 questions in Canto 1, Chapter 1. And the first of the 6 questions was, could you please summarize the essence of all the Vedas? Please. And so it was yes. And these verses, starting with 1 to 6, now this is number 15, it's the essence of all the Vedas. And this verse is hinting at messages from previous verse, so I'll just quickly touch on some of the parts of, chapter verse number 6 through verse number 14. The first of those verses is emphasis on paradharma. Dharma, we know the meaning, the occupation, the constitutional activity of the soul to serve. Dharma. And then how that is to be done, serve the Supreme. Serve the Supreme through your occupation. That's, and the whole long discussion, there's a whole long discussion about Varnashram that's touched on here in the report. Because we have bodies and mind, we have psychophysical nature, and we're inclined to work according to our psychophysical nature. Work is there, service is there, because we're souls. And maybe forth with the body engages in activity, and engages the body and the mind in activity. The growth of the subtle body engaged by the soul's propensity to serve according to the modes of nature or psychophysical nature. And then, so that dharma, the common sense of dharma, or perform your duty. So then there's different duties depending on different ashrams, we get the whole Varnashram system, both Varna and ashram. According to Varna and according to ashram, there's some duty. And dharma, in the ordinary sense, is to do that duty, but to do that duty not, part of dharma is not with the intentions in these earlier verses. We're quite familiar because these earlier verses are the foundation, and then later there's examples and examples, historical examples as the Quran histories of expanding these essences, because that was the question. Later comes the questions, can you give us some examples? What about this? What about this person, that story I heard? Can you elaborate? Those kind of Quranic. But here, right away, chapter 2 is the foundation principles. execution of paradharma while engaging in one's ordinary dharma, that's embedded here in calling it karma yoga. Essentially, in simple language, karma yoga is perform your duty without attachment to the result. And since it is a result, in the performance of duty, what are you supposed to do with that result? Work. And there's a work product. So what are you supposed to do with that? You don't make zero. You don't have to work. Some views say, stop working. Sorry, Charlie, the souls are active. You don't work. You can't. You can try anyway. You can try to anesthetize the soul. And when anesthesia wears off, you're going to work. No permanent anesthesia, there's no such thing. Even death. Then there's rebirth. Because the modes of nature and karma are animating and activating the soul, or directing the soul towards this and that. So, take the fruits of work and offer the fruits of the work to the Supreme, karma yoga. Touch gets in the purport here. Then karma yoga. Understanding the limitations, the boundaries of performance of work, and through that detached work, according to Bhagavad Gita, something happens. The idea to do the work diminishes. And instead, focus goes to who I really am, not just body to body doing the work and offering the results of the work to the Supreme. I'm spirit soul. I'm the animating soul. And Gyan Yoga. And both karma yoga and Gyan yoga cannot lead to liberation, or they cannot yield liberation unless, the way the Prabhupada's language here called it, that there's coating of bhakti, there's the touch of bhakti, and the association with someone is bhakti. Gyan yogi, karma yogi can become liberated if and only if there's some tinge or coating or involved in contact with the language or bhakti. And then that progressive karma yoga, Gyan yoga can lead to liberation if and only if there's some bhakti mixed. Say negative. If there's no bhakti mixed, it doesn't lead to liberation. It leads to elevation, but it leads to liberation. And then, okay, well, what's liberation, please? Oh, that's a good question. And there's a liberation that's cessation of material existence, called nirvana. But nirvana, that negation thing, material existence negation thing, by work or by karma yoga, or Gyan yoga, cessation of material existence doesn't mean the positive spiritual existence, or the positive activity of once liberated, what do you do? That's a good question. Twinkle. Like a star in the sky. You just twinkle. You're luminous. You're enlightened. So you twinkle. Because there's no, and last, we go a little further. A little further is, with that spiritual, non-material or fully spiritual identity, then engage in service with my spiritual senses unto the master of the senses, Rishikesh is saying that it's Shuddha Bhakti, that it's that the full stage of liberation. And that's what Bhagavatam is teaching. how does one get to that position? It's from the earlier verses, the hearing and chanting of the chanting topic in verse 25. Here's a nice lesson. It's not from these earlier verses, but it's a nice lesson. And that nice lesson is Shukadeva Goswami is a superlative example, perfect example. Before he heard the message of Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, he was a realized impersonalist. So much so that he was averse to taking birth, so he stayed on in the womb of his very uncomfortable mother for 16 years. Because he didn't want to come out, because he was averse to Maya. The story is in the Bhagavatam in his first canto. Vyasadeva went all the way to one. Now, what was Vyasadeva saying? What do you have to do later? He went all the way to one. Krishna, can you come and promise my unborn son? He can come out, please. He'll be protected from Maya. And he's not taking my word for it. I believe he'll take your word for it. So Krishna came all the way to Himalayas and informed the child who was unborn, please come out. And I promise you, I assure you, he'll be protected from Maya. So he came out. But when he came out, he had not yet heard Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the key. He had not yet heard Srimad Bhagavatam. He was born and fully realized impersonalism. There is such a thing. Brahmagyan. And with Brahmagyan, Brahma Sukha. With Brahma Sukha, it's insulation from Maya Sukha. Don't let it be from Maya. And what did he do? He left home. He had no attachment to home. Not just because I'm 16, I'm leaving home. I'm not one of those. But he had no attachment. And his father went, the story is in the first canto of his father went running after him, come back. And all his father heard was the echo of his voice from the trees. Come back, come back. He didn't come back. And, this is detail, and the ladies bathing and without their clothes, when they saw Shukadeva Goswami passing, they realized he's detached. he's a mind-body impersonalist, realized it's home. So they covered themselves. The opposite, the householder, they covered themselves. It was so distinct and the perception was so clear. And Vyasadeva, very intelligent, he sent some servants and assistants that knew verses of the Bhagavatam to go recite these verses of the Bhagavatam out there in the forest somewhere. And when Shukadeva Goswami hears, he'll be attracted. So sure enough, he was attracted. He came back and heard the whole Srimad Bhagavatam from his father. And it's pointed to by our acharyas. It's kind of easy to understand. The subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam is not material subject matter. He had no interest in anything material. He had interest in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, Bhagavatam is not material, it's only spiritual subject matter. The sound vibration. Fully transcendental. Now, we're calling you folks. We're used to having books, and they're reading books, and getting understandings and different things from books. So there's a tendency, an easy tendency to think of this book, Srimad Bhagavatam, to be like the mature book. Because all of this narration is important to help us understand Tasukata Krishna Punya Shravani Kirtana Vidya Tatso Yuvadrani Vidya Satam Nashta Prayeshu Avadreshu Siddham. So the experience of the Moratas Mohava Kama, the affinity for the temporary diminishes just from hearing and continue hearing. And as this verse says, non-stop, like continuous hearing. So who can do continuous hearing? We have busy lives. I mean, you can drive. But that minimally, regularly, and daily. In practice of yoga, do something regularly means every day. That's like brushing your teeth every day. You don't brush it. I don't think there's anybody in the world that doesn't brush their teeth every morning. So along with brushing your teeth every morning, additional thought will be some part of the morning or some part of the day. Every day, when you brush your teeth. And then that's the sustained effort over time. With then, why should I do that? Well, we brush our teeth because it's oral hygiene, just like tastes yucky if you don't brush your teeth. Or you brush your teeth. Well, it's hygiene. And spiritual hygiene, here's your Bhagavatam. And in chanting of mantras, although we may or may not have grown up like that, we get attacked because of the why question, because it's the fact that we experience what it's like with and what it's like without. And the world difference of experience. Our experience of life changes. Life doesn't change so much. We get older, so it's a little different, but Minneapolis doesn't change because you started reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Minneapolis continues to be Minneapolis. But your experience is different. And that's the verification. Subjective experience that is the result of consciousness that has become purified. And that's the message of these verses, these initial verses. I'm going to read the translation again and see if there's some discussion. With sword in hand, Anisa, Anudhya, the sword in hand of remembrance. Anudhya, Asina, the sword of remembrance. So remembrance, that it's not just memorization of, it's awakening of consciousness that's dormant, and consciousness that's dormant can be awakened by sound, spiritual sound. Anudyasana Yukta, being equipped with Karma Granthi. Karma Granthi is hyphenated. The knot of Nirvana, Prabhupada's translation is the internet. What's the internet? Nirvana. What is it? The bond is broken. The internet. When the bond is broken, the karmic bond is broken. Chindanti, cut. Kovida, intelligent persons, that's how it starts. The sword in hand, intelligent men, cut through the binding reactionary knots of reactionary work by remembering, which is the fruit of Shraddha and Kirtan of Vishnu Smaranam. Everyone will not pay attention to his message. thoughtful people will pay attention. Persons that are not so thoughtful, they may or may not. And when there's distraction, it's not. And there's lots of distraction. Too much distraction. So it's lots of not. But the principle from earlier verses is that the influence of ignorant tamas and rajas, ignorance and passion, diminish by that hearing. And as that ignorance and passion diminish by the hearing, it opens the door for goodness. And in that state of goodness, the hearing and chanting provides at least an opportunity, a glimpse of transcendence. Say negatively, persons in ignorance and passion can't get a glimpse. I mean, but using this example of the clouds in the sky, or, the clouds in the sky. You can't, the direct light of the sun is blocked because of the clouds in the sky, but you can see the sun's up, it's daytime. And through the clouds, you can see the sun, or sunlight. But the direct perception of the sun is when there's no clouds in the sky, or greatly diminished influence of the clouds in the sky, that the mineral status, that comes about quite naturally from what? From hearing. It sounds exactly the process that Srila Prabhupada engaged in. Worldly, chanting of Krishna, and hearing regularly the verses, and the inscription of the verses from Srila Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and of course, Prashadam, and deity worship, and residing in the apples. Or if you can't decide it with God, then remember, aspire to reside in the Holy Nam, the good God, or some Holy Nam. Then the process of bhakti, the Prabhupada applied, because right here in Bhagavatam, but initially and primarily in the initial stage, of course, his personal divine association was otherworldly, but what he gave was sound of kirtan and shravan and kirtan, and purification from that special non-stop gift that he gave. Therefore, we will not pay attention to his message, the sutta speaking to the sages, his message means Krishna's message. He's an advocate of hearing Krishna's message. You understand the why, but then it's like, who's going to not do the why? The what is follows the why. Let's see, there's some discussion. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I know.
Thank you very much for last 3 days enlightening us with your personal association. Thank you very much. My question is, Sukdev Goswami is considered to be Brahmavati, similar to the 4 Brahmanas.
Similar.
So, my question is, what's the essential difference between Brahmavadis and the Mayavadis and the Bhaktas?
Okay. Those 3. So, the Mayavadi has a definition by negation. A Brahmavadi has the actual experience of Brahma Sukha. Definition by negation is not the realization. It's just it's a notional, not a direct realization. the terminology may just, if you're asking the terminology, what does it mean? What is it? It's a process. The process may or may not reach the stage of realization. To get that stage of realization, there's important, the touch of bhakti has to be there. Not full-on bhakti, not true bhakti, but some acknowledgement of the divine, the supreme. So there's an aspect of the supreme from it. And to actually realize it, to experience it, and to live in that place, that space, that consciousness, some contact, some touch or coding with problems. Then one can have that Brahma that's different than my body. And then there's stages of bhakti. So we can be in the beginning stage, the sadhana stage. But accepting the supreme and my intention. I may not be a graduate from the university, but I'm enrolled. And I'm in the path of getting a certificate from the university that says, congratulations, you're a graduate. And then, there's sadhana bhakti, and there's stages of sadhana bhakti, and after prema bhakti. So bhakta yogi is one who acknowledges Bhagavan and is engaged in the activities according to Shastra and under the guidance of a spiritual teacher. Engaged himself in the activities of serving with the intention of using definitions, with the intention that the Supreme should be pleased, Krishna should be pleased. That's the Bhakti Yogi. Distinct from the Brahma body and Maya body. Yeah.
Please accept my apology. I would like to have some clarification.
Little louder, Brahma.
I would like to have some clarification about
About
Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva, I heard in one of the lectures that Shukadeva Goswami was the parent in
let me challenge that statement. Please, I'll be blunt. There is no scriptural reference. Have others written about it and spoken about it? Yes. He gave the references where learned scholars and Bhakti magazine and others, reputable sources tell the story. And then I pursued with those ISKCON authors that are, there's no scripture reference. They wrote it because they heard it. It's a nice story, so they told the story. But the answer to this is there's no scriptural reference. Shukadeva Goswami can be whoever he may be, but there's no scriptural reference to say this one. Maybe. But we don't know. So we don't people we don't know. Yeah.
So I have a similar question.
Similar question.
About this Krishna.
Shukadeva Goswami.
Yeah, so his father is Vyasdev. He knows who is Krishna. He knows
Vyasdev knows.
super personality of Godhead. So I was just thinking about how Sukadeva Goswami by birth or becomes self-realized or realized impersonal. He did not trust or he did not know about super personality of Godhead or where did he get his
How do you become a devotee? By association with a devotee. He didn't get the chance to hear from his father when he was born. Now, is it possible? The answer to this question is yes. Is it possible that even before birth, when we hear about the God and become a devotee? Yes. examples, please? Sure. Divine Maharaj. Example number one. But, here's the but, according to Narada Muni, no, don't kill this child after the child is born. He's a great soul. They did say he's a great soul, he's a great soul. So he had some eligibility. And then he was Narada, and he became. So, I had a discussion, frankly, I had a discussion over the past 5 days with Rita Yandaraj about the backstory of Karna. Because, he writes about Mahabharata, Rita Yandaraj, and he's a PhD in Sanskrit. So back and forth, and he wrote, it's his opinion, and the opinion of many scholars, that people from India are too much preoccupied with backstory. So much so that it takes away from the present story. It detracts the glory of the present story. Because, we'll put it back there instead of what's in front of your nose. What's, the character and personality of this great individual. So, a short answer was the backstory of Shukadeva Goswami. I know one that is not, but how did he become, your question is leading to, how did he not become a Vaishnava from birth, or conversely, how did he become Brahmavadi before even he was born? How did that happen? What's the backstory? I don't know. I haven't been able to find, rather than saying another place where there's not a clear scriptural reference, there's something that's alluded to from Skanda Purana that says, but I have not been able to find from Skanda Purana. I haven't found anything, and the other senior Vaishnavas I consulted, that's rather than Paris, but the Skanda Purana reference, I can't find it. And then for that matter, what's Skanda Purana? How that authority is going to trump, I don't know. And what's the real Skanda Purana? That's another question. You follow? So I don't repeat it. I don't know. That's my answer. Give me a scriptural reference, please. That's the better answer. Give me a scriptural reference, and we can say, I'm sure you should keep growing that. I'm sure we can say, that's it. It's a mystery. And just be happy that it's a mystery. One more mystery in life is not a problem. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, how does Maya get us away from Krishna?
How?
Yeah.
Halloween. It's like, it's a Shakti. Maya is the potency of Krishna, who has an assignment. Yes, sir. To move the conditioned souls. Yes, sir. Maya, is a shadow of Yoga Maya. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, she's got it like marching order. What's that? To move the conditioned souls. Cover me so they can't see me. Even if they see me, they can't see me. Even if they hear me, they can't hear me. Even if they see a desert, they think there's water in the desert. When definition is a desert's a place where there's no water, they see water. Got it? Yes, sir. Devotee potency of job. So by the empowerment of Krishna, she's a Shakti, one of Krishna's important Shaktis. And then for jivas that are averse to him. Now there's jivas that are turning their attention away from being averse to him towards him. That's called sadhana. And then the sadhana is the entitlement for sadhana is you have contact with someone who's a bhakta. And then bhakti in the bhakta is carrying Shakti, the yogamaya potency. So the medium of yogamaya, you will start to turn your attention towards. But that's Krishna potency. To assist a living entity that wants to be in relationship with him, practice purification, please. But that yogamaya is the internal potency, Mahamaya is the external potency, but the potency of the Supreme. Behind the potency is the potent. And Krishna gives the marching orders to go. Bring this living entity to me, please. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
I have a piggybacking question to her question and your answer. So, Krishna ultimately wants all the jivas on this planet to come back to him.
He wants,
Yeah.
but
So, with that kind of way, then since you said like Maya also is Krishna's energy and works under Krishna.
Yeah.
So why did Krishna set up this Maya so that the
It's
jivas can
very
get
simple.
entangled and entangled and just stay
It's really
happy
simple.
forever?
it's really simple, but you're not going to say yes. You're going to say no. The yes is because we wanted it. We didn't get it. I didn't want this, that. Oh, yeah. The living entity is marginal potency. The marginal potency is transcendental to Prakriti, para Prakriti. We are part and parcel of Krishna, who has unlimited free will. We have tiny free will. And with our tiny free will, we can say, I want to enjoy separately from you. Are you sure? It's miserable. And it's, it's unending miserable. And you may think it's nice that this part, the force of Maya, to think miserable is nice. Because some people think it's nice. Some people think it's nice. That's why they do what they do, because, that it's the moving potency controls it. No, because we wanted it. Krishna doesn't want it. But we wanted it. He doesn't interfere with our free will. Please don't go there. You'll suffer. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. Dukkha Shastra. So here we are. We're hearing the message. We don't hear the message. Why not? Maya. Because we made the choice, and we like pursuing the choice. Even we know it's not going to work out. Plus, you're chasing the water in the desert, thinking there's water in the desert. We're still chasing the carrot on the end of the stick is in front of the donkey. And every step, the carrot is the same distance away as the end of the stick. And then at the end of the day, the donkey owner takes the carrot off the stick and gives the carrot to the donkey. He does the same thing again the next day, the next lifetime, the next ever. We're donkeys. We're not. So, it doesn't have to be like that. but we wanted it like that. Krishna doesn't want that, but he didn't interfere out there. Here's a real simple one. If it weren't for free will, there'd be no love. Look, love me or else, and there's nowhere else, right? That's not love. For love to be, there has to be the option. And there is. And this is the option. Here we are. So why is it like this? Because we want to do it. That was the option choice on the menu. You have a problem. I can see your facial expression look like you're good. You move on. Okay, over there.
Do you understand that to be different amongst all of us? Like, are we individually?
I don't know either. Now, ladies over there, they have some. When you get it clear, we'll come back.
So now that we have come here because of our free will, and we realize this is not what we want, is there a way for us to pray to Krishna not to grant us free will at all, and to keep it with us? No matter what we do, there's no, you prayed not to give free will, is that possible?
Krishna won't take away your free will even if you ask him to. It has to be the free will choice consistently. There's no interference, it's a choice and a reciprocation of choice. Encouragement, because that's what he wants. He wants to love and be loved. He wants us to feel that happiness of his love, etc. And we don't get all the associations he wants. It doesn't interfere. So there's a continuous progression of making the right choice and not making the other choices. But in sadhana, we make the right choices. And while performing sadhana, we're continuing to make some other not right choices because of conditioning, of habit. There's different language vasanas and tendencies to do stuff, whatever those, moving into coming to Buddha and Parvati got their favorite variety. We keep doing that along with the sadhana. Makes it motion.
Even if he sees us making the same mistake over and over again without even.
That's what Krishna says about the Abhijananti Mahuna. Gopta, yes. Yes.
I just had a friend pass away yesterday morning, and he was a Christian, and from my understanding, he'll go see Jesus on Jesus' planet. Do you know how long he'll be there? And if I pray to Krishna for him, will it help him in his next life?
Yes. Free will is still operative. But the well wishes of one Vaishnava to another soul, whoever that other soul may be, it's not a 0. It's not a 10. They still have to make their free will choice, but it can enhance and help remove obstacles so that their free will choice is more likely to be made than not. There's spiritual benefit that goes with that living entity that we pray for. And then your purity, each of our purity has something, with more power toward that prayer, according to purity. Purity is the force for that. So, become pure. That's what we can do. And pray, but and with pure people. There's nothing else where Christians should be pleased. Nothing else. No mix. Christians should be pleased. Yeah. One more. We have the last one. We're going to end after you.
So I would like to have clarification. Bhakti Devi, is she same as Vrunda Devi or Srimati Radharani?
Otherwise, how do you have to treat the names? There's a distinction. Vrunda Devi can give bhakti, can give Shuddha bhakti. But bhakti is bhakti, and Vrunda Devi is Shuddha Devi. They are the personifications of Shaktis, and then it gets into this very intricate description of Krishna's Shaktis. They're all spiritual, but this one does this, that one does that, and the other one does the other one. And they're all connected to this Swarup Shakti, its own spiritual potency, all those lines of, expansions and connections, and it's complicated. Supposing you got a clear answer without all that, lack of definition, there is a distinction. Suppose you're wired, you got the answer. Then what? What are you going to do with that?
Just
Curiosity.
curious, understanding.
And my response is to say, curiosity questions aren't going to get you to where you want to go. No harm at having curiosity, but be clear, what's the purpose?
So understand.
I just understand what I'm saying. But when you're, the I want to know spirit is fantastic. It's your life. Congratulations. So, when you're being inquisitive, wanting to know, double check, go a little bit behind I want to know, to what is it that I want to know? Once I know, then what am I going to do with that thing and now I know that I didn't know before? The application, the purpose, the sankalpa, the why question. It's important. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't be inquisitive. I'm saying be clear as you're going forward in the inquisitiveness, which is, the sign of human life. Human life, transcendental souls. Where's this train going? This inquisitive train. What's the purpose? What is it? Is it information? And if I get information, then what do I do with that information once I have the information? How's it going to help my Anukolyasya Sankalpa, Pratikolyasya Varjuna? Except things that are going to enhance bhakti. I'm laboring the point a little bit for a reason. Because, the because is, I've seen devotees that are very knowledgeable, and that's it. It's the Gyan distinction as opposed to the bhakti distinction. I'm not saying you're Gyan, I'm just saying, let bhakti become rich.
What is, if I understand it right, is when other people are not interested in like spiritual growth, or they don't seem engaged with it at least outwardly, and we're supposed to just sort of let them be. Is that to their advantage?
Is that what?
Is that to their advantage ultimately, spiritually? To, like, if someone you care about is, say, eating meat or something like that.
Do you understand what he said?
Maharaj, I think it's in reference to one of the 10 offenses where if you preach to an atheist or even if it's a friend, and just leave them alone, that's an offense if we continue. Is that for our benefit, for their benefit? Well,
Okay. It's for your benefit. So there's a detailed scriptural reference in the 10 offenses against the holy name. And one of those 10 offenses is to preach the glories to the faithless. Then there's details of where's the line. So your question is, for whose benefit? It's for you. Now, for them, supposing you don't want to make an offense, but you also don't want to just hang out and twinkle. You want to preach. So when you're preaching, if you're presenting something, say we're getting about we're on the street of somewhere, or somewhere, you're giving about the to somebody. You don't know who they are yet. You're just meeting them for the first time. So if there's no offense to you for it's recommended, please do. And when you find that they're vilifiers of Krishna, and that means vilifiers of Krishna's devotees or the message about the Gita, if they're vilifiers, then you stop. From your benefit and for their benefit, because you go on, and they're going to make further offense and further offense and further offense. So you don't go on because then it's detrimental to them as well as to you. But the injunction is an offense. You're being able to realize transcendence will be blocked by that offense. Once you know, when you don't know, you give. When you do know, you don't continue speaking the esoteric glories of the holy name to those people, because they'll just pearls before swine. They'll tremble, and they'll further offense, and that's your offense. So introduce no problem, no more problem. Good. And then once they have identified, look, I'm the king of cities, thanks. Okay. Bless you. I won't disturb you further, okay? Thank you. Here's the shot. Throw it on the floor, no offense. So, depends on the person, how you're going to excuse yourself. But if they pursue, then, you have to be appropriate to the circumstance. You make choices. After the identification of his person is an asura or a demon, then you don't continue to pursue for your benefit and your benefit. Okay. Should we go? Yeah.